The slides. Yep. Good evening and good day, good morning to all of you, depending on where you are from. Thank you once again for joining us at the webinar. And today we will be talking about preparing our brains to hopefully do better in exams. So calm down, breathe and study. Brain prep for exams. So this is our 24th or 25th webinar actually. And a quick introduction, just to follow on to what Shirley has mentioned. If you're interested in our team of panelists who is supporting the event, please feel free to look into our website. And we have Thai interpretation if you are just logging in. So feel free to choose that interpretation channel if that helps you. My name is Cheryl. A quick introduction of myself if we are meeting for the first time. I am trained as a physical therapist and started working with the brain as soon as I started my career. So very much involved in neurology. And I founded BrainFit about 20 years ago now. I'm also a proud mother of two girls. So, and one who's having exams, all right, who's just had her final paper today, actually. So, going through what many of us are also going through together, right? So, a bit more about BrainFit. We started the company in Singapore in the year 2001. So, we're interested in, bringing what lab research finds, right, discoveries there, and putting them into programs that can be applied to people, kids, adults, and make them perform better mentally. So you can see some of the centers in the different countries, which is why, we have a team, quite a global team here actually, and also, in attendance today. So we offer enrichment programs catering to kids from as young as 9 months all the way to adults and seniors. And we also run a preschool in certain locations. So you can see the different locations, and these are some of our partners and some awards we have won as well. So let's get into the topic proper. So we are here to talk about the brain, during a stressful time for our learners, our children or our students, if you are a teacher, and what are some of the things that can be done to help them. So I'll start with the poll, right? And so here is just kind of, random thoughts, right? Not so random, but just to get us into the topic. Flashcards are useful for exam prep. Do you agree or disagree? Practicing past year papers are more effective than reviewing study notes for exam prep. Do you agree or disagree? A protein-rich meal is useful before an exam. Do you agree or disagree? Let's pull up the poll and have everybody participate. Okay, so you should see the poll on your screen now. And so no right and wrong, all right? Just good to have some audience participation. So flashcards are useful for exam prep. Yes or no? Thank you for your participation. You can see responses coming in. Practicing past year papers are more effective than reviewing study notes. And we'll want to have proteins in our meal, before going into an exam. Thank you. We've got about 50% of our audience participating. Let's just wait a little bit more, yeah? And as we get more responses coming in, thank you. Probably just 5 more seconds. Thank you. Thank you for your participation. It's always nice to see responses. All right. Okay, we're just going to end the poll right now and then we'll share the results. There we go. So what does everybody think? Flashcards are useful for exam prep. 85% of the audience agree and 15% disagree. Practicing past year papers are more effective than reviewing study notes for exam prep. So we've got a 60-40 kind of split. Yeah, so 60% agreeing. And most people think that the protein-rich meal is useful before an exam, right? So and 15% think maybe not. But thank you for your participation. We will be discussing, all of these points. Yeah, let me close the poll. Oops, there we go. As I was preparing this webinar, it's actually quite interesting. There are so many exam jokes out there, right? So I was having a bit of a laugh. After English exam, how was the paper? Mommy asked. It was easy, but question 5 confused me. What was the question? Question 5 wanted the past tense of think. I thought and thought and thought and end up writing thinked. Okay, I hope you're laughing. I laughed at that, all right? And so this is a stage, right? And I want to start off with something light because obviously, the exam period is a stressful time. And that's why I think that so many people make jokes out of it, right? Of kids. So there was one where somebody says that the happiest moment in life is the last minute of the last exam, for example, right? So if you have a child who's of the age, where they're in school and they are taking exams or even high-stake exams, then we all understand. And if you were a parent or a teacher, you would have been stressed, right? Stressed for the child. And we have been through it, most of us. So knowing that, the experience is not necessarily the most pleasant. And I think we just need to maybe wrap our heads around, these behavioral aberrations perhaps in some of our children. We have a couple of questions come in our registration form talking about that, behaviors that were not ordinarily seen, but they manifest, right? But the reality is that this phase, what the kids are going through is stressful. That's why you have kids blanking out, like in this joke, that I'm flashing on my screen, right? Where the child thought and the answer is thought, right? Where you just can't remember, all right? And it's scary. So it's stressful to the point that our minds can go blank, right? So, and I think it's easy to understand, but I think maybe not appreciate that the organ, the brain organ that is responsible to give answers, right? Perfect answers, to get the marks, to stay focused, to prepare, is the same organ that's also experiencing possibly a lot of strong emotions, all right? Likely unpleasant emotions, all right? Kind of more anxiety, stress kind of feelings. So it's against this backdrop that we're having this discussion today, right? So I'm just going to go straight into strategies because I think at the brain level, we just know that we are dealing with a stressed brain. And usually when we are stressed, we're in the fight and flight mode, right? But with this, there is no enemy, we can't fight, and we certainly can't flight, we can't run away. Although many might choose to do that, we have to sit and face the enemy, the unseen enemy. So let's get straight into, what are we going to do? So my strategies, I've got 8 of them, and actually it's a really big topic as I was, preparing the webinar. There's so many points that we can discuss in depth. So it might be superficial in a sense because we do only have 45 minutes, or so, or 50 minutes, and that's a lot to cover. But we're going wide, right? So there's just different points I think is useful for parents and teachers to think about. And if you are a student, I know we have some students with us, for yourself, to consider. So let's begin. My acronym is de-stress, right? So a letter for a strategy. So we're just going to start with D. Number 1, remove distractions, right? So we are in a stage where we need the frontal lobe of the brain, the prefrontal cortex, right? The thinking brain, your executive function, your focus brain, all the different names that we have to really be in tip-top condition. And we know that the natural tendency of a human brain is to be easily distracted. That is the default position, from the genes that we inherited, because it helped us to survive once upon a time, being easily distracted, right? You have to be attentive to every little movement in the environment. So you're ready to flight, to run, or to fight. So we have those genes, right? So if we want focus, right, it's hard work for the brain. So first thing, the brain is a muscle. We can always train it. So yes, we can train attention as a skill, right? But during the exam period, it's not a good time to start training. So, people come to BrainFit for training. I always say that, don't think of BrainFit as an exam prep center. Yes, we can certainly help, but it really is all the pre-exam days where, you're preparing, right? You're building up those muscles. So during this stressful period, you're calling upon the muscle. So, and we don't want to load the muscle too much either, because there's so many things it's got to process. So removing distractions is useful. Our brains are naturally distractible. Remember that. Now, be aware of what is distracting your child or your student, right? And try to address these issues as much as you can. And I'm just going to list a whole lot. Some are easier to address and some are much harder. We're not just talking about environmental distractions, right? Because I mentioned the environment, we have to be kind of like attentive to that. That's our default state. So we've got entertainment distractions now with gadgets, with iPad, with TV, with games, right? If we're used to having those pleasurable moments, right, the brain gets used to that. And certain games, for example, can kind of drive the addictive networks in the brain as well. So it draws you back. You want to go back. You want to get out of this boring state. Studying is boring. It is, right? I mean, no matter how you call it, I mean, we can make it more fun, but at the end of the day, it is mental effort, right? Mental effort is not something that the brain naturally seeks, right? Friendship issues, perhaps, right? So besides external kind of environmental issues, there can be a lot of internal distractions as well. A friendship that's not going well, performance anxiety. I don't feel like I know, the semesters work very well. Family worries, right? I mean, with COVID, maybe somebody's out of a job, maybe somebody's unwell, right? Grandma is sick, right? I'm worried about that. So all these can be distractors, and the child might not articulate that, but it can contribute to the state of being suboptimal and hard, when they're focusing, or trying to focus to study. Now, let's look at, what are some solutions, right? Environmental ones are probably easier, and of course, easier if your environment allows it. If you are, in a work from home situation, if you're in a lockdown situation and everybody is sharing space, it can be so difficult, right? People are fighting for quiet spaces, for gadgets, for devices, for Wi-Fi, right? So it's very real. The current situation has added another layer of stress, right? Otherwise, in the past, you can just go out to the library, go out somewhere, find a corner, a restaurant, a cafe, go out to McDonald's or something. And some of that we might not be able to do anymore, right? So if you have the luxury, all right, of having space in the house, so these would be some of the considerations that you might want to take, right? That have a dedicated area or room, ideally, if not at least an area for study. Try to have natural lighting if you can, right? Reserve the area for work only. So you want to get rid of the toys and also associate subconsciously, right? Every time you go there, we're ready for mental effort, right? You're linking a space so that each time you sit down, it's easier. Whereas if you're sitting down with lots of toys, you're fighting, the first energy is already drained, just fighting distractions. You want to be organized, right? Your supplies, things are missing, your pencils are not sharpened. All these are potential distractions. There's some research from the architecture side actually showed that a desk plant, some greenery, right, indoor plant, something small could potentially improve concentration. Again, if you have the luxury of all these, we do all that. If we don't, then we try and do what we can, right? But the idea is that it is hard, when there's a lot going around environmentally, and we will want to try and remove as much of the distractions, as much as we can, so that it's the load on frontal lobe, on your attention center in the brain, it's easier. Yeah. So this would be the environmental considerations. Then you have your internal considerations. And here I'm just talking about performance anxiety, perhaps. All the conversations, the radio I talk about playing in our mind, right? Your self-talk, messaging that we give ourselves. And a lot of them are inaccurate, but they are really distracting, right? If I don't get a good mark, I may as well quit. if this message is playing in your head, can you imagine the stress? I can't tolerate making mistakes. It's too hard for me. I suck. I'm going to fail. I'm dumb, right? My parents are going to kill me. I'm never going to learn this in time. I always fail stuff like this, right? Everyone will find out that I'm an idiot. I got my daughter, with me when I was working on this, and I said, Isabel, do you have these thoughts? And she said, yes. And she never tells me, right? And I asked her to point out for me, what messages have you received from your brain? And she would point this and that and that. Not a message that any of us adults have given her. Nobody has told her that she can never do well. We all tell her how, with hard work and her capabilities, we point out the strengths. But the reality is that we have that radio. And for some kids, it's playing positive messages. I'm not saying all of us will have these messages, but I'm saying that there are kids whose radio is playing these kind of messages. And it's again a distraction. Yeah. It will take a whole webinar just to talk about how we're going to deal with this. So I think all I can say is that we got to be aware. The child may not articulate these, right? But we got to be aware, right? I mean, check in. Oh, how's your friends going? Check if things are okay. If focusing is hard for your child, or if their behaviors are different, right? And of course, it could be a period of heightened stress, but you want to check in to the mental kind of faculties as well, just to make sure things are going well. Yeah. So that's my first strategy, all right? Because we've got 8 to go on to. So think about distractions. So these are distractions. So you want to be mindful of them and remove as much as you can. So let's move on to E. So E would be now exercise. You would have heard me talk about this so many times, all right? If you have been following our series of webinars. So we want to move and we want to keep moving if we can, yeah? So strong research, this research is already old, right? Composite of 20 students' brains taking the same test, right? So a group was sitting quietly, another group went for a walk. So after 20 minutes of walking, right? And then when they were sitting for the test, their brains were scanned. So we want the right side a lot more because of the increased blood flow activity, going to the areas, and we want activity in the brain. Exams is a test of brain activity, really, right? In certain specific networks that schools narrowly, school's very specific, right? It's the language, it's the math, it's the science, and the knowledge, yeah. So it's a brain demand, right? So we want the brain to be healthy, nourished, oxygenated, as much as we can. And exercise does that, so it's useful. So continue with your regular sports and exercises. Now, I put a picture of the ballet because, as I've mentioned, my girl, she's just in primary 3, and that would be 9 years old. So in Singapore, we start exams that year in school, and we have 3 rounds of exams this year. This is the second round, and we will have one more in about a month and a half's time, right, for the final year exam. So this is our calendar year in Singapore. We start in January, we finish, towards the end of the year. And this week is the exam week, and she has ballet class on Tuesday. And so we went to ballet class, and the teacher was saying, oh, wow, you're here. I said, yeah, why? She says, oh, everybody has canceled, all the kids her age. I said, oh, because it's exam week, yeah. So it's not something that I recommend, and that's why I made the trip to go there, because I want her to have a bit of a workout, right? The physical activity. Because if you really are into how the brain functions, which I am, right? You're going to get healthy chemicals, right? You're going to get nourishment, so your 50 minutes, your 1 hour, and for me, I spend 1.5 hours, right? Because we have to travel, right? It's going to be worth it, right? And anyway, she's just come back from school, at 2:30. I mean, how much studying is she going to do? I mean, she's already spent all the hours in school. So for me, it's a nice break, even though it's exam week. But we still come back, and then, we continue with our prep just for a few more hours, right? But for me, that's a nice break. Now, if you don't have the luxury of time, all right, or resources, like somebody to bring the child there, then do simple things at home. Do jumping jacks on the spot, running on the spot, right? For 5 to 10 minutes. All right, we have no sports schedule. The child's not in any enrichment. There's nobody to bring the child. We don't have the resources. It's okay, right? The message is really that physical exercises, I really think it shouldn't be trimmed, right? Because it is helping the process of paying attention and learning. Physical exercises can improve brain functions, right? Like memory, right? And attention, cognition, both immediately after a workout, right? It's got immediate effects, even kind of short bursts of exercises, and also in the long term. Yeah. So if you're a brain fit student, we've got lots of little exercise videos in the apps, so pull out one, right? And do it, right? 5 minutes. Each of our videos very short, 4 to 5 minutes. Just get some activity going, before you sit down and practice something, or, and revise, right? And then you can do it again, after sitting down for a while. All right. So that would be practical ways to keep your brain sharp, right? By doing something different, but it's helping, the activity directly. If possible, even, right, do some light exercises. Light, right? You don't want to kind of overexert. You will be using the mind, right? And of course, if your exam's in the morning, then, unless you wake up really early, otherwise it might not be possible. So only if it's possible, just do something light, even if it's a walk, just to get moving, right? Get the a bit of the oxygenation, just get activated, yeah. Having your heart work a little bit stronger and get some more blood and oxygenation into the brain. So exercises is useful. Use it, right, during exams, yeah. Even though it's not a direct academic activity, it's helping the academics via memory and attention improvement. Oh, I don't have a strategy for food, but I want to talk about food, right? Especially on the day of your exam. So I'm assuming that the exam's in the morning, so I talk about breakfast, right? But it could be lunch if you're taking a test in the afternoon. So the key thing is you want healthy carbs. So this is actually from Jamie Oliver on their website. They've got a brain fuel for exams, a blog post that was quite interesting, right? So rather than kind of sugary cereal, right, you want to think about porridge or millet, all right, and with nuts, fruits, so you want to think about slow release carbs, your low GI, high protein. Yes, protein helps, right, because it's going to make you feel fuller, right? Or you can have your dairy, your milk, your yogurt, yeah, or peanut butter sandwich, with bananas. So rather than a piece of white bread and jam, right? So you want to think a little bit more about breakfast or your meal, right? Because the brain needs lots of fuel to perform well. Yeah, it's a small organ by weight, right, compared to the rest of the body, but it consumes a large chunk of our energy. Yeah, so food that we consume, a large portion, about 20%, goes to fuel the brain, the activity of the brain. All right. So we want to think about what fuel sources are we giving the brain before we send off the child, into the battlefield to take this high stakes test. So do think a bit more, and of course, rightly, we should be thinking about this every morning before sending the child off to school. But of course, on a day that you're taking an exam, the brain is needed to be extra powered up, right? So that's why we talk about it more. But we should be, thinking about our nutrition, our diet, right? Our meals, all right? And when we talk about the brain on an ongoing basis. Okay, so that's removing distractions, and then we have exercising, and then your output, which is kind of exercise. I talk about your input as well. All right. So what energy source are we giving the brain? So it's things that we want to think about. Now, the next strategy is think about using study strategies. All right. So strategy use. So a few things to think about here. Now, for a child, just very quickly, for a child who has a lot of the negative talk, self-talk, that we had the earlier slide, that talks about, oh, I suck. I never do well in this. This kind of like continuous tense, always, never, I always fail, right? I can never pass. Yeah. I think it's useful, and it's something that I use with my own children, right? So I'm always saying, when I hear something like that no, we just haven't found the right strategy, right? So it's always bringing the child back to, yes, we have a problem, right? Now, minimizing the problem, if your child is failing, and then telling them that, no, you're doing well, that doesn't help, right? They know the truth. So we don't ever have to lie, right? We don't have to sugarcoat things, but we can bring them back, right, without sugarcoating something. So we need to address problems the way it should be seen, right? Problems are there because we have not found the solution yet. If you are careless, we haven't found the solution to help you to be careful, right? So it's a strategy issue. And I think if you can move your child to think about it like that, it's really quite powerful in removing the self-judgment, but it's not easy, right? It's a continuous battle, because then the child will say again, oh, no, I'm never good in this. And then you have to repeat again and again. It's not something that you say, they get it, and then they get it forever. It's not like that. I mean, I'm parenting a child, like that, who's prone to negativity, right? That this is firsthand, yeah? So your message is very continuous. Let's find the right strategies. You can always hear me talk about this in the house. We just have not gotten the right strategy yet, but let's keep looking for it. We're in this together. So I just want to talk about the language used, yeah? So strategies are something that may not have a one-size-fit-all, kind of like this really, really works and will work for everyone. Yes, there are some general ones which we will be talking about, right? But we need to first know that the brain is unique for every individual, right? So that means that the way they learn, right, their strengths and their weaknesses will be different, right? And strengths and weaknesses are in our children, in our learners, because different brain muscles have different strengths, right? We talked about this a lot in the webinar where we examine learning styles, right? Whether it's a fact or myth that we have learning styles. And the message is that it is true. We do not have the same brain. Some of us are better at sports. Some of us are poor in reading, right? Some of us are good in math. Some of us, are the same person is weak in writing. Whatever combinations, you'll find someone out there with a unique combination, because the brain is so different. So it's very, very useful to know your child under high stakes conditions. I find, right? Really know your child. Then we know how to have the kind of conversations, right? Where are your strengths, where are your weaknesses? I don't know if you were here at that learning styles webinar. I shared this cognitive profile of my daughter, right? At 7, okay? And you can see her focus is not the strongest. Blue is strong, red's not, orange is so-so, right? So she's got some clusters that are not strong. And I've known this for a very long time. Focus is not the strength. So I'm not jumping up and down when she loses focus. I know what the brain is now dealing with. Then we can be a lot more supportive, right? So we are looking at exploiting strengths and creating strategies for weaknesses. Because I know my daughter's weakness for attention, I brought her to ballet on an exam week. Why? I wanted the additional neurochemicals from the physical exercise. Right? I'm tiger mom like that. I'm into the brain, right? Not into the scores, right? But I want her also to learn, what are the things that work for her. The scores are secondary, right? Learning, progressing, improving, to me, is the number one thing about life. Scores is just one part of it, right? But if I didn't have the knowledge, I might have made a different decision, right? So it's useful to really know your child, right? So you need to observe. How do you know your child? Observe on a daily basis. Little kind of observations are important. Or do an assessment. Come to BrainFit, right? We offer a cognitive map profiling if you're interested. I highly recommend that. I test my own daughter on that. I mean, even though I think I'm pretty good in observing, but there's so much nuances. Sometimes it's hard to pick up, right? Now, some general strategies, though, right, would be summarizing of information, for example, visualizing, right? Of course, some children are not strong with visualizing. Okay, I'm not a strong visual learner. I do not usually put information on a mind map like that, but I can appreciate information organization. It's a chunking strategy, right? With at the animal kingdom, I found this really nice animal system. Thank you to whoever who did it and posted it up. It's actually to prepare Singaporean children, taking the PSLE, which is a high stakes exam in primary 6 or 12 years old, right? And it's a science topic comparing all the different animal systems, the systems, right? The animals, all right? So, but it's under the systems kind of category, or living things, whatever theme that is. So you are chunking. So you have birds, and then you break them up to the different parts. For example, insects, right? It's got 3 parts. It's got 8 legs, for example, right? And it gives you a neat visual, so that when you are pulling out information from memory as you are sitting for the test, then you can kind of pull out that visual image, right? And again, if you're not a strong visual learner, pulling up the image itself might be hard. Yeah. So as a general strategy, all right, it can be helpful, but not always, right? So that's when I'm always careful when talking about strategies. We just have to go back to the differences in individuals, right? But a lot of people can benefit from a neat mind map like that is a chunking strategy. That means a lot of information, you chunk it up to association. You link this information with this, then it becomes one chunk rather than 2 discrete pieces of information, which is higher loading for the brain. So you want to chunk, then the brain remember one thing. So in this case, I remember a picture, and then I remember there were different colors, all right? And then I elaborate that one chunk, okay? And so it's really organizing, all right, a mind map or concept map, really organizing information in a neater way for you to be able to retain more effectively. Okay, so this would be a strategy, for example. Now, the recommendation, while this is really, really nice, right? The better recommendation is to have your child draw it, right? Than kind of printing it. And again, I appreciate this very much, right? I mean, it can show the child how it could look like, but really having the child come up with it. And this is exactly what my daughter did this week. They're studying the digestive system. If you have a primary 3 child, you will know what I'm going through this week. All right, so the different parts. And of course, we could have drawn the digestive system. You could do that too. It need not be in a bubble form, right? It's just organizing information. I mean, we just chose to do that. Yeah, and it could be in different colors, but it's really having the child, right, kind of like draw, executing would be a lot more powerful, right? The networks that are involved, just reading, looking at a piece of information versus producing that information is a lot stronger, activates a lot more network for that. All right, so that's strategies. All right, so think of the child, think of what might work better for your child, right? So then you want to exploit strengths that you might already know, and then remediate weaknesses, right? That you are ready to catch them, yeah, and giving them strategies that's kind of like tackling them. And of course, try and before exams, you should be working on the weaknesses, building up the muscles, right? So that we are not bogged down, because a lot of times, we have all these strengths, but we just are miserable because of some of these weaknesses that pull us down. And it's not the most kind of inspiring kind of feeling or encouraging. So we also want to work on the brain, right? But during exams, that's when we want to really exploit, what we have. Now, T, what's T for? Test, test, test. Now, some of you may think, no, remember my question in the poll? Right? Practicing past year papers versus reviewing your study notes, right? This point is about that. Now, the act of memory recall is one of the most effective study techniques. That means making yourself pull out the information, which is why like drawing the mind map. versus studying the mind map, right? There is a difference at the brain level, right? Whatever that calls upon the brain to pull, retrieve, pull back the memory, consolidates the memory itself, right? So there's a lot of good things at the brain, right? And these are kind of like research supported. Yeah. So retrieval is a strong strategy, right? To help us, it's a good technique to use. So how do you then use a retrieval strategy, right? So practicing on past year papers, you're actually testing yourself, right? Are therefore more effective than reviewing study notes, for example. Of course, you can review study notes. We're not saying that you don't do that, right? It's just if you have that amount of time, and you just want to do one thing, what do you do? Right? Of course, you should be reviewing. So I would say study, see where you got wrong, then review, right? Because you want to pull information out first, practice your retrieval, right? Then you go review. Of course, if you haven't studied yet, then, study first. Flashcards is useful, right? This is a bit of what we did as well, kind of like words that's hard to remember. Fork out is to pay money, right? So draw a fork with money, and then it's easy then to remember. So that's vocabulary. So that's a strategy. So flashcards are useful because it is a retrieval strategy. All right. So we talk about flashcards. We don't encourage that. We don't really use that in very young children. It's a retrieval strategy. It's really an exam prep strategy. So it's got its place, right? So it's really pulling out information that to check your knowledge. Yeah. Whereas in for very young children, that it's we want to help them connect knowledge, right? So it's not the kind of exam style testing of knowledge that is as useful. Yeah, but very useful here. And make your own flashcards again. It's the act of creating, writing, drawing, that itself, multisensorial. More parts of the brain gets involved in the act of creating these tools that's going to help consolidate these networks as well for you to retrieve, better later. So use revision tests, past year papers to test, right? So flashcards, testing yourself. However, now this is where I think some of you might be thinking about when I'm talking about that. It can be very stressful for the children, right? So then I think it's really about how we frame revision tests. That makes a big difference in elevating or reducing stress levels and confidence, because we do not want to increase any ounce of stress at this point, right? We do not want to. It's already a stressful situation. So it's not something we want to add to. So having them do test prep, isn't that very stressful? Yeah, it depends on how we view test prep, okay? Now, it's important for children to see revision tests not as checking for good, correct or wrong, good or bad, right? Like a judgment, like you fail again. But it's the process of learning itself. It's a strategy, yeah? Now, for younger children, reinforce, right? Younger elementary school, right? That testing is a hide and seek game with your memory. Your memory is hiding. Can you seek it? We need to know which memories cannot be found. Then we're going to make it stronger, that memory. We're going to pull it out, right? So we lighten it up. Adults, we can do that. Yeah, so we're checking, yeah, it's memory working out, exercises, right? For older children, just outrightly explain that it is a good strategy for memory, for studying, right? It helps you to remember better using a technique like that. So rather than, being consumed with right again, wrong again, and calculating the mark in the test exam, it's really more important to examine, oh, you got this right, good, this concept is strong. Oh, this is not right. Where is it hiding? What memory do we need, do we need to build? Okay, we need to find the memories. All right. So that's how we can approach this very effective strategy. But yes, it can become stressful for the child, but not if, I think we are able to manage it in a more positive way. All right. Now, R, okay, we had RESS. I've got 4 more strategies, all right? R, redirecting nerves, okay? So like I mentioned, the emotions are heightened because people, it counts. right? It's a competition, of sorts. Yeah, I mean, it's not really a competition, but yeah, it's something you're going to, lots of people are going to, everyone's trying to do their best, right? So however we call it, it creates anxiety. So we want to redirect, all right? And that's your amygdala, right? We talk about that firing, right? Our last webinar, raising mentally strong learners, right? We talk about our emotional brain. We want to calm that. What can we do? Deep breathing exercises, right? Lots of good things. Again, is the category of exercise, right? Got lots of good things. Improves focus, strengthens problem solving. Now, these are all research-based results of mindfulness training, deep breathing kind of exercises, reduces stress, regulates emotions. However, it needs to be practiced regularly to have benefits and to be able to use in a stressful situation, right? You cannot learn it or use it in a pressured situation if you didn't practice it prior. All right, so practice it now. All right, it's a regular thing, and then you use it. And my girls use it a lot. I asked her, "Do you use deep breathing to calm yourself?" She said, "Absolutely. Can't do without it." Right. So if you practice it, it can be very useful to redirect your amygdala. Right. Useful on the day of exams to calm nerves. Listening to some favorite music, all right, it's been known that it calms us. Yeah, so redirecting again, right, useful on day of exams to calm nerves. So doing something, you're exercising, you're deep breathing, redirecting, calming your amygdala, which is the part of your emotional brain. Yeah, so those would be useful things that can be done to help the children. Yeah. All right, and now I have 3 more strategies. Now, E, it's really important. Managing expectations, and here I'm talking to the adult to help our children, but I think really more to the adults, right? So here, expectations is tricky, but let's list down what we know. High expectations and belief in people leads to high performance. So very often, belief creates fact. Now, is this supported? Yes, this is research supported. Teachers and parents who have high expectations on the students, those students perform better than students who were not given that belief or that expectation, right? So, but then you have this, the secret of happiness is low expectations. Is that true? Yeah, it sounds true. It's true, right? If you have no expectations, then everything is pleasant. How do you reconcile two things? All right. That's why it's an adult conversation, right? Two conflicting ideas. Yeah. And how are we going to reconcile that? So we have to reconcile that. So having high expectations of your child helps them to do better. So that's what we want. But we want high expectations, but not high pressure, right? So pressure, let's put it in a different basket, right? Just for discussion, right? You want the expectation, but without the pressure. Remember, it's already pressurizing on its own, right? So make sure your high expectations, do not become high pressure. Otherwise, are they going to help? No, they can be harmful, right? Because your stress is not the best mental health condition, right? If a child is overly stressed. First of all, what does high expectations mean? I believe in you. I believe you can do this. I have faith in you. I believe you can reach your goals. Let's work towards it together. The belief, right? Now, remember, high expectations come with a few things if we do not want it to become high pressure situation. It's got to be clear, right? I expect that we can, that you will improve, compared to your previous, it's articulated rather than kind of like a hazy, a state where the child doesn't know what they're supposed to be doing, right, or delivering. Be realistic. Is it achievable? It's like your SMART goals. It's got to be achievable. Setting a goal that's not achievable is very demoralizing, right? And it creates unnecessary pressure. So it's got to be realistic. You've got to accept mistakes with expectation, right? It comes with that. Nobody is perfect. It's just a journey. You got to make a mistake to know how to improve, right? You got to be very, very embracing of mistakes. Yeah. Focusing on the process, right? We're just getting better than yesterday. Okay. And be supported. So I am with you. Let's find a strategy together. Let's work on this, right? I am here. How can I make it better? Yeah, so that's the job of the adult, not to tell them, you're not doing well. What's wrong with you? Just concentrate. I understand these are spoken with good intentions, but it might not be helpful. It might not get to our goal, right? So we got to look at the process. How are we going to find attention together? How are we going to find more accuracy together? What are we missing out? Why is this part hard? Are we missing somewhere together? Yeah, we can support our children better like that. Yeah. Okay, so expectations important just so that we don't tip them, over kind of like the threshold, in terms of their mental health. Now, the last two S's, right? Sleep. Sleep is highly important for the brain. It consolidates memory. All these synapses, right? They fire they are, the synapses bind together stronger, right? When we sleep on things. So it consolidates our memory. And National Sleep Foundation sleep duration recommendations. School-going kids, it's kind of 9 to 11 hours, I'll say, right? And of course, it decreases, right, as you get into teen years, right, 8 to 10 hours, right? But broadly, we need sleep. And I think a lot of research is showing that our kids are not sleeping enough, yeah? Sleep hygiene, the word that we use, yeah? So sleep is really important, right? Now, remember, sleep helps us to consolidate memories for the day. So this is a question. Your child is in school from Monday to Friday, right? Now, if you want to give them a late night to stay up for a bit more fun, which is a better night to do it? Friday or Sunday? Let's have some participation. We have some time. Maybe on the Q&A. You want to type some answers there on the Q&A? We don't have chat open. So do you think, to let them stay up late, is Friday better, A or B? Friday or Sunday? All right, good. Friday, it's good. Friday, Sunday, stay up late. So which night do we want to stay up late? Sunday, Friday. Hey, it's pretty split. Yeah, a lot of Fridays. Friday. So stay up for a bit more fun. Okay, Friday, I think my slide's wrong. I probably write Friday, is it? Yeah, okay. This is wrong, by the way. Okay, it should be Sunday. My slides is wrong. All right, stay up late. It should be Sunday. I'm going to shift this over. Why? Sleep helps strengthen memories from the day, what you have learned, right? All right. So if you want to consolidate Friday schoolwork, you should go to bed early on Friday. So my answer is wrong. It should be Sunday. But of course, because Sunday eats into your sleep time, because you got a Monday early rise, right? So that's why we tend to choose Friday. But if you are thinking about consolidation of memory, go to sleep on it, right? This is what it means, right? Sleep helps strengthen the memories that are formed during the day itself, right? Whatever that's important that's happened. So if you've done a solid revision that day, go to sleep early, sleep on it, right? So that's why it's Sunday for this question. But I understand, right? We choose Friday, and I probably instinctively say, of course, you stay up on a Friday. But for a school, right? I'm talking about if you learned a whole deal on a Friday, then sleep early on a Friday. Okay. The Sunday question is just that, yes, you don't want it to affect Monday, right? But that's kind of length of time. Okay. So now the last S I'm going to talk about, smile. No, laugh. All right. Now, this is a stressful period. We should help them de-stress. This is our job, I think, right? Really, I see it as my job, right? How can I balance the scales? It's not about the score. It's about my child acquiring positive habits to deal with stress. This is my goal for exams. Very honestly, scores are secondary. I want to teach them they have to work hard. they improve them compared to themselves, right? They develop diligence, strategies, yeah. And my job is to help them develop all these so that they are ready for life, right? They're going to deal with work stress in a more healthy way in the future, right? So one of my job is really to include fun. Laughter is the best medicine. And for mental health, it is neuroscience supported, right? Laughing, smiling, and having fun are some of the best antidotes to stress. Laughing releases endorphins and serotonin in the brain. It has a similar effect to antidepressants. These laughing therapy was done on people who were depressed, right? So there is research kind of showing that our brains are healthier when we're happier, right? When we're having fun. Fun and happy moments may not happen spontaneously. So if we think every day they're just going to have fun, we might be wrong. They might be in the games because they are stressed. They might be escaping in front of the TV. They might not be happy sitting in front of the TV. We don't know. We really got to talk to them to understand what's going on. But try to instill doses of fun, right? Just have small moments. It need not take up, an entire night going out, to a movie. Just little light-hearted moments, make jokes, just have fun. Do something that bring a smile to everybody's face. All right, so that's all. And I'm just going to summarize my de-stress strategies, okay? So number one, remove distractions. Now consider both physical and mental or emotional distractions, yeah? Exercise, give the brain benefits both immediately and in the long term. So when we think about output, we think about input. Have a protein-rich breakfast with good carbs, right? i.e. low GI. Strategy use. So exploit your child's strengths and create strategies for weaknesses, right? Test. So the act of memory recall is one of the most effective study technique, right? Therefore, flashcards and revision papers are useful. Redirect your nerves. Use deep breathing exercises. Listen to your favorite music to calm, in that situation. But again, especially breathing exercises, you want to be familiar with that. Manage expectations, have high expectations, but make sure they do not become harmful pressure on our child, right? Expectations should be supported, right? I am with you. Yeah, let's do this together. All right. And it's got to be a realistic, right? Achievable. Yeah, okay, and clearly articulated to the child, okay, and focus not just on the end goal but on the process. All right, so all the kind of setting good goals, kind of theories come into this point. Sleep, ensure quality sleep, right? Sleep helps strengthen memories from during the day. Smile, laugh, right? Instill doses of laughter, smiles, and fun moments to release happy chemicals. Okay, so that probably will bring me to Q&A in a little bit. But before that, so we have a feedback form. If you are interested to know more about BrainFit's programs, how we use emotional coaching to help kids handle stress, how we have physical exercises, feel free to complete the form, through the QR code or the link on the chat. If you want to do a cognitive map profiling of your child's strengths and weaknesses, something that I highly recommend, or complimentary consultation, and it leads you to the next webinar, which I am just going to talk about. So in the next two webinars, it's a two-part series. We're going to shift gears a little bit, all right? We're going to go and talk about choosing a preschool. I mean, this is an area that I get a lot of questions on as well. So part one, in 2 weeks' time, I am going to be talking about some well-known, history-backed philosophies. Montessori, Reggio Emilia, or inquiry-based learning. All right, so these are some of the more popular ones in Singapore. What does modern brain science say? And then 2 weeks after that, I am going to be talking about our own school and our curriculum in BrainFit kindergarten. If you want to know about a completely brain-based curriculum, we might be, if you feel free to join us. And I want to share evidence for faster learning in half the time. So I'll be sharing about our results over the last 3 years that we have been running our kindergarten. right? So we're shifting gear a little bit. So let's come back to this, and we'll get to Q&A. Shirley, do we have any questions? Sorry.
Yes, we don't have as many questions today, but we have one that is related to earlier what you talked about under strategy about, understanding the weaknesses and strengths. So there's a question on this. Let me just pull it out on if my visual is not strong, is it a good strategy if we use voice recorder to learn and listen to it again and again?
Okay, that's a very good question. Thank you for raising that. Yep. Now, but yes, you can use an auditory strategy if auditory is a stronger system for you, right? So it's not wrong to use that channel to now absorb information. However, if you're talking about exam prep, right? Again, exam prep is just really it's testing your memory retrieval. It's a retrieval test, right? So you want to practice retrieval to be ready for the test, right? So we know that if you are practicing for an exam and you keep rereading the book, for example, you read it again and again and again in the notes, it's not a good prep. Rereading might not mean that you can answer the question because it's not really exercising on those parts that requires you to pull out the memory, right? So in the same way, now, but if you are an auditory learner, my suggestion would be that you write out. So rather than just listen again, it's like rereading again and again, staring at the mind map again and again. That's not something that we want you to do. Draw out the mind map, write out the notes, all right? What do you remember about this topic? So you need to put retrieval in it. Yeah, so whereas listening is an okay strategy to learn information, if you are practicing for an exam, you want to practice retrieval, you want to apply retrieval strategies for that. All right, so, but thanks for the good question. Do we have another question, Shirley?
Yes, we maybe have just one or two more. So we have a question about, in particular for teenagers, right? So how to help teenagers around 16 to 17 years old to not be negative about themselves and reduce overthinking? Because we had a point on that too.
Yeah, actually, it is not just teens. We know that very, very young children can have very negative conversations as well. And I guess it would be more pronounced for teens because if they were like that, it could very well be that they would have been having these negative conversations from a long time ago, right? And if you were having these negative connections that's played, this negative talk that's going on and on and on, the networks will be very strong in the brain, and that's not good. So it takes a whole webinar to talk about that. I will talk about that. Maybe we'll come back to that. It's really about being able to catch your own thoughts. It's metacognition, it's self-awareness, all these terms that we use, right? It's really developing in the children from young, but even at teens level, to raise the awareness that they have conversations happening in their mind. Then raising the awareness that are these conversations helpful or non-helpful, accurate or not accurate. For example, we had the slide earlier that talked about, oh, I suck. I am always failing, in school. Then you're going to challenge that thought, right? And say that that's not true. You do well here, here, here. But anything else? You see, sometimes children thoughts are shaped by their feelings, right? They feel scared and they think I'm not good, right? So it's not based on factual happenings. So we have a huge exercise. It's a whole, semester of curriculum in our, growth mindset curriculum where we are having the children check their own thoughts and understand that they have thoughts in the first place. It is not something that people are naturally aware of. I strongly believe it's something that we need to teach our children, right? That they have that and they need to check that, whether these thoughts are helping them or not helping them. And we don't want unhelpful thoughts, right, to be playing in our heads, yeah? Even if it may be true, I may not be weak in that, right? You can play that thought, I'm really weak in math, for example. That's accurate, right? I'm weak in math, but that's okay. The second part will be, but if I work on it, I can improve because the brain is a muscle. So you can have conversations, right? That is not lying, there's not sugarcoating, but making these talk more constructive and positive, right? So, but yeah. So these are some tips you can think about, right? But I think children who are taught kind of in a structured manner to think like that has a bigger benefit in managing some of these. I hope that helps. Oh, sorry, I'm over. One more question or not?
Shall we? Okay. This one just came in,
Okay.
which I thought is nice because I think this might be coming more from an educator. Okay, so how do you talk to a parent who is more focused on their child getting to a prestigious school, that the grades are not the most important?
So the student wants to go to a prestigious school?
The
Or
parent is focused on the child going to a prestigious school.
It's very, very sad. I talk to parents who are quite determined that the child's going to be a lawyer, and then I think parents, I think it goes to the expectations point, right? I think parents, it's fine to have high expectations, right? I mean, like in that point, I think it's not wrong. But I think when it becomes a pressured situation for the child, then I think that we need to examine that, right? And how do you talk to a parent? I think will be hard because I think we just have to kind of separate the two, right? I mean, having an expectation is not wrong. It's like setting a goal. It's not wrong to have a goal, but is it achievable? We just need to realize that, okay, I want you to get an A. Right now you're in the D. That sets up incredible amount of pressure, right? I want you to run a full marathon. I don't even run 10 kilometers. It's like that. It's scary, right? And stress doesn't help you move towards the goal. So parents need to know that we need to do constructive things towards our goal. And we just have the conversation in a very scientific way that additional pressure, for your child, perhaps who might be feeling too high pressured, right, is not helping your goal, right? And how can we make it more acceptable? Yeah, and I think it would be that kind of conversations, but I don't think it's easy. I think parents need to be aware of how the brain works, right? They are capable brains. Some children may not be suited in certain schools or in certain careers, right? And this is real, right? I have a very good medical doctor friend who sits on the board, who recruits who accepts students into medical school. And we know that in Singapore it's hard to get into the medical school. And we sit down and we talk, and he says that, you know what? Half of the kids do not want to be there. The parents want them to be there. It's very sad, right? And he doesn't, I mean, it comes across, right? They're not happy, right? And then they're going to drop out of the medical course. They are not going to enjoy that, right? So we need to have happy futures. We all want that, but let's make it really achievable for all of us, right? I think our goals are the same, but we got to have flexibility and then work with what we have. I better stop now.
Thank you. And I think we got all of the questions.
We're 10 past today, right? 5 past, sorry. Okay, so it's a wrap, guys. Thank you very much. And all the panelists as well.
Thank you, Miss Cheryl. All right, we will just leave this on for about a minute so that everyone can access the feedback form. So if you have further questions or you want to join our next webinar, go into the link, fill in any questions you have, and also check out the chat box. We have a link for you to sign up the next webinar. When the webinar has closed, you will still be able to access the feedback form so long as you have gotten the link. You can scan in using your phone, using the QR code.
So I'm just going to answer Michelle. Thank you. Welcome. Thank you all the parents for joining, or teachers. But seminar, please, for children over things and negative thoughts. Yes, I will be doing one of that. All right. Thank you. Thank you for coming. Thank you for your time. So we're leaving this on for just a minute more?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a short while. Make sure that you have gotten into our feedback form or gotten the link for our next webinar. And yes, for those who are asking, we will have our seminars recorded and made available for a limited time. So usually a couple of days after the live webinar, it will be posted to our website, and then you will have a few weeks to view it before it is unavailable.
Yes, the website is resources.brainfitstudio.com. You know, in case you should get an email from us. Do check if our emails ends up in your spam box, because our email would have gotten to you on when the recording is available, and the website link to that. But it's resources.brainfitstudio.com.
All right, just another
All
10 more
right.
seconds. I think we are about done.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
Yeah, we're closed now. Thank you, everybody. Thanks, panelists and everybody. Bye-bye.